All right, so here we go for another live interview with Become a Fearless Father, and I have Drew Tupper with me. And this went quick. This was like, I think we chill talk Tuesday, and boom, it's Thursday, and we went live. And I like that. I like speed. I like action. So thank you for that. And before we go into who's Drew, I want to ask you this because I saw a post and I was pleasantly amazed, let's call it like that. And it was pretty much, I guess, your philosophy on what is time, what does it mean, and how should we approach it. So please, man, share that first of all, because I think that everybody that steps in right now would be just like me, happily, pleasantly amazed and would be touched. So let's start off with that, man.
Okay, sure thing. Are you referring to that post that I wrote yesterday? It says, yes, go ahead and be self-centered.
Yep, that's the one.
I'll do the whole thing, but be really self-centered and selfish, not with possessions, but with your time. Mm-hmm. Spend time doing what really matters to you. Spend so much time being self-centered that you come out the other side, a centered self, purposeful and generous.
Yep, that's the one. Actually, now you're reading it, it's giving me goosebumps. I love it.
Yeah, man, and I don't know where that came from. I have to tell you, sometimes things just come in here like this. Mm. And so I'm not sure if I was lying in bed or meditating or what I was doing, but that came in to my head, and it felt true to me. And so these days, what I'm trying to do is, especially if I get these inspirations that I feel are special and they feel true to me, I just try and share them. Mm-hmm. I just put them out. Facebook's a good place. You can share it widely. And so, yeah, what this means is I think that we have in the past been fearful of the idea of being selfish and self-centered. Mm-hmm. And it almost like has this, it's a perspective that says don't spend too much attention on yourself. Don't pay too much attention to yourself. Don't like yourself too much. Right? And that's not a good thing. Mm-hmm. And I've been discovering recently that if in fact you like yourself and maybe even love yourself, like deeply, mm-hmm. And you listen to yourself and you feel yourself truly, that what comes out of you after you do that is the truth. It's resonant with who you are. It's maybe in line with a bigger vision or an inner wisdom. Mm-hmm. So it never ends up being really selfish or selfish in the way that we have been told or taught. I use this analogy with some of the clients that I teach and work with, that self-discovery and this self-love is not wasted time. In fact, I think this should be taught in school, or it should, in some cultures have rites of passages and that type of thing where they do this. But there's not one person that's really taken the time to look into themselves deeply and earnestly and genuinely, that's come out and said, well, you know what, after doing this vision quest or this rite of passage, I feel like I'm going to take advantage of the world and lie to people and cheat and steal. No, that doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. It's like, it's this truth that when we look inside of ourselves and we love ourselves and we trust ourselves, that good things always come. Mm-hmm.
Yep, I like that. I like that a lot. I've written it down because I've heard it more often, rites of passage, and fathers saying that they are trying to form rites of passage for their children when they come to certain ages. And I'm still looking for mine. My boy is almost going to be 6, and I think 6 is a first age. That would be nice to make some sort of rite of passage to start, I'm still looking. So maybe we can talk about that some other time.
Yeah. I like that idea though.
I really appreciate you sharing this because you hit a couple of topics that are really important, right? Yourself and time as well, because time is fleeting. We just spoke about it, the fact that my mother-in-law is next door. She's very sick. Her time is done, and it makes then it makes those kind of topics even more special, and
Mm.
brings you up even a bit more. It's like, hey, my day is one day. Hopefully, wait a minute. Hopefully, right? I get that far. She's 80, so.
That's right. Hopefully.
And it makes you think. So I really appreciate you sharing that. I must say, and I want to ask you quickly before we can get into who's Drew a bit more.
Yeah.
I have the feeling, and maybe that's just the whole marketing thing, and we as entrepreneurs should go that way, but it's always like extremes, right? It's either an extreme of you have to focus completely on yourself and build yourself, and your mind has to be good and this and that to be able to give. Or, no, you shouldn't focus on yourself at all. No, you should be giving and focus on the others and et cetera, et cetera. I like that middle ground better. And that's where you explain,
Yeah.
find yourself, take time for that, but then also make sure that you give. So
it'll feel natural. I think once you take care of yourself, once you put the oxygen mask on yourself, that enables you to give all of yourself and your real self to somebody without feeling like your tank is so low that you can't do any of that.
Exactly. No, absolutely. Yeah, fully agree. I appreciate you sharing that. So, Drew, man, what's your background story? Who's Drew? What's your family look like, etc.? What do you do? Let's share with that. You take it from there.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you a brief rundown.
Appreciate it.
I'm Canadian, born near Toronto, and have since moved to the west coast of Canada, on Vancouver Island, which is really lovely and beautiful. But even since then, have moved to the Caribbean with my family. So I live now in Grenada with my wife and my 2 kids, my amazing, wonderful wife, and the best kids. So I've got no complaints. I'm a lucky guy. What else can I tell you? Grenada is wonderful. The people here are super friendly. It's a wonderful cultural experience for us to be involved in. My kids are learning tons. Obviously, the beaches are nice. The waterfalls, the fresh fruit, all good. My work I'm really hitting my stride in terms of my work right now, which feels great. I'm coaching. I coach here in Grenada and online as well. And I coach parents online and teachers here in Grenada.
Nice. Cool, man. That sounds awesome. So yeah, the one other question that would come in later is for example, traveling. I saw a little bit of your photos, and it looked every single time something beautiful with something different. So we'll dive into that as well. I saw some of the things, Brotherhood of Dads, and of course that struck immediately with me as working on that. And I don't know why. When I first became a dad, I found nothing. Right. No dad ads, no Brotherhood of Dads, no fatherhood or nothing. And now that I started becoming a fearless father, it's like I get in contact with all these amazing other fathers, dadpreneurs out there that have something similar passion, and it's just absolutely that journey. So please explain why Brotherhood of Dads. What's your aim? What are you trying to achieve with it?
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, the Brotherhood of Dads is a recent Facebook community I just started. It's only a couple months old, but it's got over 200 fathers in it right now, and really high quality dads that I really respect. And the reason why I started it is because, similar to what you were saying, when I first became a dad, there wasn't much in terms of support. I felt like I was on my own. And aside from a few friends I had locally, I didn't have much of a network to go on. And so I created this community for dads to join and to get support, to get encouragement, to share their wins, their ups and their downs, and to even be challenged. Okay. To be challenged on how can they be better. And so that's what the Brotherhood of Dads is. And with what I do, which is parent coaching, I'm able to offer the guys in the Brotherhood of Dads some help, a leg up here and there, what to do in this scenario, what's worked for me. You know, my personal journey is that I came from a place where when I first had kids, I was a bit aggressive and angry, short-tempered, impatient, and I wasn't acting like the dad that I wanted to act like. And I could see the disconnect. It was like, I'm acting this way, but I really want to be better. I really want to be the best I can be for my kids. And so I've worked hard on that over the last 9 years, being the best I can be for my kids and getting control of my anger, my aggression. And I'm finding out that there's a lot of other dads out there that have had the same experience. So I've got lots of skill sets and mindsets that I can pass on to dads. And that's part of the reason why I created the Brotherhood of Dad, to be honest, too, because like, it's a tough time. Having kids is tough. It's hard. It's high stakes. It's high stress. And if I can give somebody a leg up and help them out, then that's what I'm going to do.
That's awesome. And I really appreciate, just so people know, because as soon as you start talking, they can't see me. I just skipped out and you just kept going wonderfully. I could hear you, just had to, and good thing too, because my mother-in-law was moving and almost taking out things that she's not supposed to take out. So thanks for that. I have a quick question for that, because you saying like being a parent is hard, right? And
Yep.
I absolutely agree. There is a little but, and that is meaning it's hard because you are involved in being the best father that you can be. And that's what makes it hard, because other fathers will be like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
Right? And I'll be like,
That's no, I get, yeah.
no, life is easy too. If you just, go with the flow, don't do anything, don't bump any,
Yeah.
don't try to improve yourself. No, life's a breeze. It will be fast, done, right? Unless you really try to get out there and try to improve yourself every day and try to be what you just mentioned, right? You want to be the best dad you can be for your kids.
Absolutely.
That's hard, because you will try to improve yourself, or that's what I've noticed. You try to improve yourself as fast as possible, and you will come across challenges as fast as possible, and sometimes multiple, right? You just hit them.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you hit the same challenge over and over again until you finally outgrown them, right? Man, I love the fact that you mentioned mindset, right? You said like, look, I actually really trying to share the mindset for what makes a great father. What is that in your opinion?
Yep.
What are those mindset? What is that mindset that you're talking about?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I've worked on this for a number of years. I've racked my brains to figure this out because I am a guy who likes elegant and simple solutions. I don't do well with lots of moving parts. I need someone to tell me, or I need to discover, what's the one thing? What's the thing? I need the thing. Give me the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I did that. I just, racked my brains for years and thinking, what am I doing here? What is this job? Why am I doing this? Who do I need to be and why?
Mm.
And so I just kept on asking myself these questions over and over again. I was relentless in this because I thought that the job of parenting deserved this kind of attention.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, the mindset, the one and only mindset, well, let's say the most important mindset, is to lead by example.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And how does that look like?
Well, it's a lot more difficult than it sounds. Let me tell you that. It's a lot more difficult than it sounds, because historically, And up until recently, the idea has been for parents to be able to act in one way, which is basically whatever they want, however they want. And the kids were then supposed to behave themselves within a certain parameter of certain acceptable behaviors and actions. And considering the maturity levels, you would expect it to be flipped on its head, where, you know, the parent would actually have to monitor their behavior more than the child. That's not typically been the case. And it's because of the power differential, right? Like, we were able and still are able to say to kids, you have to do this and behave like this, and this is appropriate, and this is not appropriate. And we can simultaneously not do those things. You know, we can forget to say our pleases and thank yous, right? I can yell, I can lose my control and lose my temper as the adult, as the parent, but there's almost higher expectations on a 3, 4, 5, 6-year-old child, which is a bit strange if you think about it. Sorry. It's a bit strange. It's a bit strange if you think about it. So how does it look? First and foremost, leading by example means that you have to be in control of yourself. If you're a leader, and we are leaders in the home, if you didn't think that you were, and you weren't ready to be a leader, well, guess what? Now you are, as a parent, just by default. So, number one thing a leader has to do is be in control of himself or herself. And that is a large part of it. There's more to it, but it's actually a lot trickier than you think, because kids learn by watching you, by how you behave, how you act, the behavior that you model. Kids pick up so much on that. That how you act, what you say, how you say it, your tone of voice, your body language, all this stuff actually matters. And it might seem like I'm getting too picky here, but the truth of the matter is, after a certain number of years, I looked at my child and could see my own bad behaviors being reflected back at me. So I knew that I was modeling a certain behavior and he was picking up on it. So self-control is number one. If you have to go, it's okay. I can.
No, I'm good. No, there he is. What's up, Jago? You want to say hi? Say hi, Drew.
Hello. Hey, Jacob. How are you doing?
Good.
Yeah?
What else?
Hecho trabajo de Picasso.
Picasso.
You worked with Picasso?
Yeah, he was drawing. They went to last week or this week. Yeah. Okay. So
cool, man.
Do you need anything? Can I help you with anything? What do you need?
Quiero rosías.
Okay.
Los redondos.
I know what you want.
Que ha traído Emilio.
Those are no longer here.
Yes?
No, they're done. You finished?
No.
Okay, then maybe Daddy finished them.
Maldita.
Yeah. So.
Galletas.
Okay, I'll come right there. Let me ask.
Galletas que son marrones.
Okay.
Oh, we got one more here.
Okay.
Who's this?
Say hi, Drew. What's your name?
Alimas.
No, he said Alex van Oosterhout Duque.
Yo me llamo Diego Iván de Oosterhout Duque.
So you got a bit of Spanish and Dutch happening.
Yeah, exactly.
I like it.
They first take my last name and then they take my wife's last name, because in Spain they take both last names. In the Netherlands, that's not done.
Oh, cool.
So,
Beautiful
anyway,
kids.
Always nice to have a little fun interruption.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. That was good.
Uh,
That reminds me of some of my coaching calls. It's like, sometimes parents, they can't get away. They can't get a break. And so I'm like, let's do the call. I know you're going to be busy. You'll have things to do. And sometimes a child will hop on to Zoom or FaceTime with us. And it's just the way it is.
exactly. Yeah, that's what I keep saying. In the beginning, I was apologizing, like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my kids," and now it's like, wait a minute.
Wait a minute, I'm a dad.
It's called Become a Fearless Father, these children, and then I'm coaching fathers, again, children, and I'm teaching them, plus my kids are the most important thing. And plus, I'm talking to other fathers that know exactly what it's like. I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to apologize.
Forget about it. Yeah.
We just chat a little bit, and they can show off their English skills, which are improving a lot. So that's nice. Anyway, in regards to that, because you mentioned a lot of great things, and I absolutely agree, because I keep telling, my audience that, you are already the superhero for your kids. It doesn't matter what you do, right? You are the superhero. Well, lately I'm starting to say you're either a superhero or a super Nero, right? You're either a tyrant, you're either that Roman tyrant from way back in the day, or you are a true superhero. It doesn't matter who that is, right? But because what you mentioned is true. They model everything, and especially in the beginning, they model everything that you do, the way you speak, the way you act, and especially. And I just saw it today as well in some other dads posts. It's like, don't tell your kids what they need to do and then do something completely different yourself, right? That doesn't work, and they pick up on that like that. So
sure, yeah, and that could break trust.
Exactly.
And trust is important to have with kids.
No, absolutely. So one of the things that I liked as well, that I saw a post of, and that you have a lot of experience, is the way we should communicate or try to communicate with our kids, right? It's something that I've become more and more aware of, and I need to improve on, because it's not always easy. If you're all having fun, then it's easy, but it's not always fun, right?
Right.
So I'm just wondering, what would be your tips in the moments that it's a little bit more tricky? For example, this morning, we have to go to school, and the youngest one, who you just saw, Alex, he's 3. He didn't want to because he wanted to play, and that delivers a lot of screams and yells and crazy attitude.
Yeah.
And of course, the intention is that, what you just said, if you don't want him to scream, you can't scream either. You got to stay calm. So can you share a little bit your tips on how to communicate well with your kids?
Sure thing. Yeah. And you mentioned something that's interesting early on in that question. You mentioned when it's easy, when things are going well, it's easy to communicate, and things seem to be go more smoothly. But when there's stress, or there's a timeline, or something, there's some pressure, it seems like our ability to communicate goes downhill.
There you go. Yeah, excellent.
So something to observe there is, if you zoom out, can I manage this situation and at least not make it any more stressful than it needs to be? Right? Because I know that if I add stress to this, communication is going to go down. So that's part of being a leader, and part of being in control of yourself, is you set the tone. And so approaching a potentially difficult situation with a real calm, centered, I'm in control of myself tone is going to help, compared to coming into that same situation with like, hey, listen, we gotta, and come on, and like, it's gonna get a different reaction from the child, right? With small kids, something that really helps before you give instructions is to come back in. Yeah, no problem. Yeah, okay, sure. Is to connect with them and what they're doing. And, because you can imagine it would be pretty abrupt for a child who was playing to be like, let's go. It's not even for a child. It could be abrupt for an adult too. In that same regard, you can imagine being engaged in an activity that you really liked and you were enjoying, and someone said, here we go, let's go, stop it, put it away. So it's funny that the question of how do we communicate with our children isn't all that different than how do we communicate with people. We need to consider them, honor them, value them, just like we would a respected friend, colleague, or relative. And so, as I was just saying, did you hear that? Yeah. It's not all that different from communicating with adults.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a relation, it's only when you have the assumption that as a parent, you should be able to say, let's go now. That that a resistance to that demand could be construed as something like a misbehavior.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we wouldn't talk like that to other people.
No, exactly.
Right. However, having said that, young children do have, certain limitations developmentally that can make transitions difficult, and can have them focused on one thing and then not wanting to do something else. So there are some things you can do, like talk about something before it happens. Okay, we're finished breakfast now. You'd like to play Lego? Great. Hey, what time is it right now? You can even involve the child in the situation. Oh, it's 7:30. Okay, great. 7:30 now. You're gonna play with Lego. How long do we have to play with Lego before we have to get going? And he's like, see how you're empowering the child to like understand the situation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they say, oh yeah, we have to leave for school at 7:45. And they can learn this stuff, and they can learn about time, which is cool. And so you're like, great. So, and you can do math. You can throw math in there. So how many minutes, depending on the age?
Yeah.
How many minutes do you have? 15 minutes. Great. So you're going to play with Lego for 15 minutes, and then you're going to get your shoes on, right? Yep. Great. And so in this way, a small child can feel like they're part of this, the communication part of the situation. They know what's going on. They're ready for the transition. And that really helps.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I like it because it all of a sudden made me realize, like, yeah, I'm not going to tell my wife, like, okay, come on, let's go, right? Because she'll be like, excuse me?
Yeah. It's funny though, right?
But with the kids, with the kids, you're like, you just expect them, and what you mentioned earlier, right? We expect certain things of them. It's like, no, they're the tiny children, so they just got to do immediately what I say, when I say, and bounce. So, a lot to think about. I appreciate that. Thanks. So one of the things that I also noticed, and I hope you can shine some light on that, because I know that this is not something for most fathers, or at least if you use certain words like meditation, spirituality, or stuff like that, for some reason, most of men out there, they just closes off, right? But I saw a post, and I think it was a blog post that you shared, or maybe you even written, and it mentioned like the spiritual side of parenting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we can even call it the spiritual side of fatherhood.
Yeah.
Man, I really would like you to elaborate a little bit on that, especially in regards to, what's your take on that, and why is it not so? Why is it okay? We don't have to be so macho to think like those kind of things, like the spiritual side of something is a taboo, so to say.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thank you for that question, and I think that it's important to talk about these things, to demystify them and to normalize it. And, you know, magical, wonderful, amazingness is all around us.
Mm-hmm.
The world is mysterious, right? Our
Mm-hmm.
origins, our existence, our purpose, meaning, it's all wonderfully mysterious. So whether you believe in the great mystery, God, big love, some kind of spirituality, it's all around us, and it always has been, and it always will be.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's an important part. And I like to consider it. I have fun thinking about why and meaning and big ideas, and so I have fun doing it. So I like finding people that share that same kind of passion, and so if I put it out there, you know, someone like you might pick up on it, and we might have a nice conversation. So at the very least, we're, you know, normalizing it for men to talk about. It's, you know, because even if you don't use the word spirituality or God, like the word love, right? And what that means is pretty amazing. Like, and how far can you take it? Like, what does love really mean? How deeply can you love somebody? And the cool thing is about when you have kids, the cool thing is that you realize that love actually can grow and it can expand and it's deeper than you thought it was. And it has this really, you know, I don't want to say heavy, but like meaningful and like resonant feeling to it. And so almost in just loving your kid, the very act of loving a small child feels spiritual. It feels bigger than just what you're doing, right? There's something there. And I would say that my son and my daughter too, but my son was my firstborn. He really taught me about love, right? He really taught me about unconditional love and what that means and what it feels like. And it's amazing. It feels like nothing else, you know? And so that's, you know, becoming a parent is in a way a spiritual journey. If you dive into it, and if you look into the eyes of your child and you spend some time with them and you get into their world, you're like, whoa, this is amazing. Children are amazing. And there's some strange wisdom in children. Like, my kids have said some pretty amazing things, like really truthful, like really wise things that you almost think a child shouldn't be saying. And I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now, but they would just catch me off guard and be like, where did that come from? Like, what are you channeling some kind of, like, you know, inner wisdom? Like, and then some cultures do think that kids actually are like these gatekeepers to this bigger wisdom. You know, they're the closest to it. And in some ways I can see that, like, they really are little amazing creatures.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, because if I look at my kids and I look at myself, you know, we've been living for so many years. There's so much dirt and well, sand or whatever you want to call it thrown on us that we just got, you know, boxed in. And that's how we think the world is now, while they just discovering it still.
Yes.
And sometimes, sometimes it's not even like, you know, you mentioned like they share something wisdom. Yes, but sometimes it's something so simple, right? Something just, and then, that I really enjoy it, and I'm trying to do it with them. So it helps me. Like, I think sometimes they teach, I think it was just the last interview I did on 2 days ago, where I was also talking about then. I was saying, like, I think our kids teach us more about ourselves sometimes than we can do ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just like that, boom. You're like, wow.
Yeah.
It makes kind of sense, actually. It helped me to be crazy again in the playground, for example, which, you know, for
Exactly.
no, every adult's like this, so I got to be a nice adult too. And now I'm like, yeah, that's not happening. So
I like that. I like that perspective.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I think parenting can be the greatest personal development journey you could ever undertake if you allow for it.
Mhm.
I believe that to be wholeheartedly true. And it's hard. And so it's not easy. It's like, I think a spiritual journey shouldn't be easy. It should be you know, difficult and challenging and rewarding. And it is.
Mhm. Yeah. No, I absolutely agree there. One of the things, because you're talking about a journey, right? And
Yeah.
that can be just in your home. And I've noticed you've journeyed, you've traveled to various different
Hmm.
places,
Yeah.
living in different places. Man, I've
Hmm.
noticed because I love it. I was blessed that my parents took me all over the place, and I'm trying to do the same with my kids. But I've noticed that traveling is just so important, and it
Yeah.
helps you develop, right? So I'm really curious in knowing where have you guys been? What have been some of the amazing things that you've seen and learned along the way, and how have you seen it impact your kids in their development?
Yeah. Good question. Yeah. Traveling, if you can do it, even if it's not internationally, but even if it's around your area. I mean, we lived on Vancouver Island.
Hmm.
And so for the first, I would say, I don't know, first couple of years of their lives, we would travel around, Vancouver Island mostly
Hmm.
and just explore that area because it's beautiful. It's amazing. And so there's lots of different things, beaches, forests, hikes, rivers, wineries. Like, yeah, we would take the kids to wineries. And all these interesting places to check out on Vancouver Island. And so that's what the kind of the way we started. We even bought a camper van.
Hmm.
And for the past 3 summers, we took the camper van around the island, and it slept four, and we would take the summer off, and that's what we would do.
Hmm.
And so you wake up, and every day was a new day. It was an adventure. You're outside all the time. I mean, I love Canadian summers. Amazing. And lots of light. Everyone's out, everyone's active. And so, but you would meet different people, and you'd have different experiences, and you'd see new things, and you have to try new things. So it was like, yeah, it's what the kids would learn and how they would develop would I would say be really important on in those downtimes that were away from school.
Hmm.
There's lots of things you can learn when you're not in school.
Hmm.
And because we were all together, we would interact with our kids, and we would learn about things that they might not necessarily learn in school. Like obviously the different areas that we go to, the different geography that we're in, and different cultures. We eventually, moved off of Vancouver Island. We're in Grenada now, but we've taken the kids to Mexico as well.
Hmm.
And we had a great trip to Mexico where we took a journey. It was a big day. We drove to see the monarch butterflies in the mountains
Wow.
in the wintertime, because they fly all the way up to Canada in the summer,
Hmm.
and the monarchs come all the way back to Mexico in the winter. And we had this big long day, this pilgrimage to see the monarch butterflies, because my son was really in love with monarch butterflies at the time. And so we said, yeah, let's do it. My wife's parents came along. My mom was there too. So it was this big family feel. And it was to see the monarchs in real life and to hear the tour guide talk about them. It was just amazing.
Hmm.
So we've done that. And the experiences are rich, and they are also really connecting because everyone's there.
Hmm.
And the memories that you create, you've got the photos now and the videos to back it up, but the memories and the feeling that you have when you're that close and you're doing new things is just really special.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, creating experience with your kids is beautiful, but it's, I think, also one of the most important things. And yeah, you just mentioned something very important. You don't even have to go far, right? You don't even,
No.
even if you're just around your area, but you do things that go
Yeah.
away from your house, like,
Yeah.
and at least away from the couch, right? That's
Absolutely. And that's the way we started. We did, do you ever heard of geocaching?
no.
Okay, so geocaching is this like scavenger hunt kind of game where people hide things in the woods, basically, and sometimes in cities.
Mm-hmm.
Little things hidden. And they give you the coordinates online, and you go get the coordinates, you put it into your phone, and you use your phone as a compass to go find this hidden object. And
Mm.
it's amazing. Kids love it. And so that's what we did a lot for the first couple of years, is we would walk around and find geocaches within 100 kilometers of our house.
Mm. That's cool. I gotta check that
So,
out. Hopefully they have that in Spain as well.
oh, they will. It's everywhere.
Oh, for real? Nice.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Yeah, children love that adventure kind of thing, right?
Oh, yeah. It's so fun finding things. I mean, I love finding things.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome, man. Thanks for sharing that. So I gotta ask you this because man, it's all about your post, by the way. I saw this one thing where you were talking about the 3 different states that a child gets in, and there's only the executive state that is the right state to be able to teach your child
Yeah.
important, right? Can you explain a
Yeah.
little bit about that? Because I think that's something that when I read it, I was like, huh, now I
Yeah.
understand some things.
Yeah, no, this is really important to understand. And I got this from Conscious Discipline, which is a parenting slash teaching program developed by this woman called Dr. Becky Bailey. I think the brain state model was developed before, and she borrowed it from somebody else. But the idea is this: we have 3 brain states. At the bottom, most rudimentary, I suppose, like a lizard brain, is called the survival state.
Mm-hmm.
And you can imagine what happens in this survival state. We fight or flight or freeze. And then above that, so you're not capable of too much there,
Mm-hmm.
right? A child in this state would likely be nonverbal, scared,
Mm-hmm.
or shut down. So you're not much is happening there.
Mm-hmm.
The nervous system is overloaded. And so above that, you have the emotional state, which is also known as the mammalian brain.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this state, the child can talk but is acting from an emotional place. And so this might look like what happens at nighttime when your child is tired and wants to go to sleep, but's having a hard time. You can imagine their voice and their body language. It's just kind of like, it's not very well self-controlled. It's coming from a place of being, emotionally unregulated.
Mm-hmm.
They're not feeling fully in control.
Mm-hmm.
And the question that they're asking in this state, there's different questions that they ask. And the first one is, am I safe? And the next one, the emotional state, is, am I loved?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can imagine at nighttime, if your child's in their emotional state, they're tired, they had a big day. There's no real reasoning with this child. Although we might try until we're blue in the face, there's no real reasoning with them. What they're wanting, what they're needing in that emotional state is just calm, loving presence.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking to feel, safe and secure, obviously, but also loved. And it's like so many parents try and talk to their child as if they're in the executive state, which is the next one above, which is what we're in right now.
Mm-hmm.
You and I talking, reasoning, having a conversation, speaking, understanding, learning, even planning. This is all executive state stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the emotional state or the survival state, there's no real point in trying to reason or logic with someone because they can't.
Mm-hmm.
That part of their brain is shut down. So this, they're actually not capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so you actually have to help a person feel safe and connected in order for them to then rise up and then have a conversation with you,
Mm-hmm.
and then understand what you're saying. It's the same thing when your child has a tantrum, although I don't like calling them tantrums too much, but you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever tried to speak or reason to a child who's having a tantrum?
Mm-hmm. Of course.
How did that go?
Yeah, not well at all.
Mm-hmm. And we think we're doing them a favor by telling them what to do and how to do it, and by getting up close to them, and it's like, honestly, it's a bit of a waste of time, because that's not making its way in.
Mm-hmm.
And you can be heard, and you can, communicate with your child, just not in that moment. You've got to get them to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you've probably been angry before.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So let's say you're angry and you're in one of your pretty good angry states, and I come up to you and I say, hey, listen, in actual fact, blah, 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 blah. And you're like, you're triggered. You're gone. The switch has been flipped. I don't even think that there's a chance that you could meet me where I'm at, but likely you'd be like, get out of my face.
Yeah.
And so it's not that different for adults either.
Mm-hmm.
And so much of what we want as parents is to talk and reason with our kids. We want them to use their words. And it's like, that's all fine and good, but you're not going to do it in a survival state if they're really scared, or they feel threatened. And you're not going to do it in an emotional state.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to help them feel safe and connected. And then once they do, you'll see a different body language. You'll see a different tone, and then you'll be able to talk. And that's what we all want. So do the work is basically the idea. Do the work to help your get to your kid to a place where you're at.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so how do you do that? How do you get them from a survival state? Because I'm assuming they go from a survival state to an emotional state to, is it that route they go, or can they go from a survival state directly to a executive state?
The brain is super complicated, and this is just a schematic. It's a very basic schematic of the brain, and I don't know if it works exactly like the model says it works. And I'm not an expert on, neurophysiology. However, the basic idea is that, like in a survival state, the child wants to feel safe. Mm-hmm. So there's something that's happening that's not making them feel safe. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how quickly you can go from survival to executive, but the common denominator is that you're not going to help them get out of that with more yelling, mm-hmm. more judgment, more threatening. Mm-hmm. That's the opposite way. Mm-hmm. See, we think sometimes that we can punish our kids into good behavior, but we can, by making them feel bad, we can make them want to do good. So you got to think about that for a second. It doesn't work. Maybe at some point you'll scare them enough that they decide to be obedient, mm-hmm. but they're not really acting from an honest place. They're doing it because they're scared of you. Mm-hmm. And you got to ask yourself the question as a parent, do I want my child acting in an obedient way because he's scared? Or do I want him acting in the right way, in a good pro-social way because he feels good, and I've helped him understand this, and we've worked on these skills? I think that old way that I described used to pass as parenting. Mm-hmm. That used to be, I want my kid to behave like this, and I'm going to be scary, and I'm going to give threats, and I don't care how I have to get there, just as long as I get this result. So back to your question about the brain states, I don't know the exact mechanisms of how long it takes to get from one to the other, or if it even works like that. But I've seen it in action, and I've seen the things that I've done. The things that I've done, you know, if my child, and kids can feel unsafe for different reasons, but like, one reason my son would feel unsafe is because I'd get too close to him and I'd give him too many instructions, and I'd be too much in his face. And he just felt like, I think he felt overwhelmed. And so what I started doing was giving him space and backing up, and regulating my own voice, and being calm myself. And so I created an environment of calm and safety. And once that was present, I could then meet him emotionally, which looks like basically understanding and validating, like, hey, I get where you're at. You're sad because of this. That's a big part of my parenting, is trying to understand my children's emotions and their needs, and validating it. Like, yeah, I get it. I get why you're upset. That's okay. Not that I always agree with it. But to understand somebody else is really reaffirming for that person, whether it's a child or an adult.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really enjoy the fact that you keep reminding the fact that we're actually not that different as our kids. However, the triggers in our brain that just makes us look at them completely different. I really like that. I got one last question before we gotta bounce. You mentioned a couple of times you're coaching parents. And my question, because a mentor or coach, it's so important. I think everybody should have at least one. I actually think that everybody should have, on the areas that they've chosen in their life to improve on, they should have a coach. But that's my opinion. What makes a good coach, and why should somebody find a coach to help them grow?
Great question. And I didn't know the answer to this until relatively recently, but there's some phenomenon that happens when someone cares about you and your development and your progress. When there's someone on the other end of the phone or the video chat who at the very least is saying, hey, how's it going? How's that thing that you wanted to do? Are you improving? Are you making progress? There's some phenomenon that, as a social creature, I want to be accountable to you. I care that you care about me, and I want to honor that relationship. And so there's something powerful there. And if you don't have that, what may have happened in your life is that year after year, you may have set an intention. You may have been like, okay, January 1st, I'm going to do this. And then 3 weeks later, you don't do it. And so 2018 was a write-off. 2019 was a write-off. And you say, okay, 2020 is going to be the year. And that wouldn't happen if you had a mentor or a coaching kind of relationship where someone was checking up on you at the very least. And the person doesn't even really have to be giving you skills, although I do help people with mindset and skill set with parenting. But the mere power in having someone care about you and your progress, and not going away and not leaving you, and being like, dude, I'm with you. I'm here. We're down. We're together. And I'm concerned about you, and I love you, and I want you to improve, and I care about it. That's powerful. And so if you're watching this, or you know, and you're thinking, yeah, I would love that. Yeah, I want someone in my corner. I want someone supporting me. I would love to have that. I would love to have someone go to bat for me and to like care about what I care about in my development. It feels great.
Mm-hmm.
To have a coach, you know, I've had coaches and I still do. And it's like, never stop. Never stop. It's one of the most powerful and quickest ways you can improve.
Mm-hmm.
And you can make headway without a shadow of a doubt. Coaching and group work is worth its weight in gold.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Absolutely. I appreciate you sharing your insights on that. Man, it's for me, it's 7. We've been on an hour. I enjoyed it. I think this was, just so the audience knows, I think this was the, for me, rowdiest live interview I had in regards to interruptions. So it happens, but hopefully it doesn't happen too often. Anyway, I really appreciate you, Drew, for sticking with it and bearing with my quickness of needing to handle certain things that happened in the house.
No problem.
Anyway, thanks. I really enjoyed your insights. I've written a lot down that I'm going to think about and work on right away. First thing I'm going to do is going to give my kids a big hug. As you mentioned, it's so important that they know that they're safe. They know that they're loved. So they are in the executive states. And I think that hugs are one of the things that really add to that. They help with that. So I really appreciate you sharing that. But last, before we leave, Drew, fathers out there that are listening to this, how can they stay in contact with you? How can they follow you? Maybe they have some questions. What's the best way?
Yeah. Well, I welcome all questions, and quickly I'll give you my website. It is drewtupper.com, DREWTUPPER.com. And my Facebook Dads community is called the Brotherhood of Dads. So you can find me in either of those places.
Awesome. All right, make sure for people that are listening to the recording, you can find the link, like always, underneath. They will be everywhere. So, again, Drew, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time for being on this live interview. It's an hour, and I really enjoyed it. Everybody else that's been watching this, thank you for joining us again. I really appreciate you, and looking forward to the next one. So I'll see you guys soon. Take care.
See you, man.
Are you still meeting up with your friends now that you're a father? Kids making you stress out. You got no time for yourself to work out, read, or relax. Can you still remember the time you were hanging out with your friends, feeling energetic, happy, and confident? Spending time together and talking about your life and your crazy dreams. You're feeling alone now, don't you? No one to share your challenges with, and you're just running around from one storm into the next. Well, it's time to change this now. Join me and the Brotherhood of Fearless Fathers to speak on a weekly basis with like-minded dads to crush your challenges, face your fears with determination, be held accountable, and regain control of your life. If you want to become the hero your family needs you to be, then go to becomeafearlessfather.com/brotherhood. I'm looking forward to seeing you on one of our next calls.